discussing about the ePrivacy features, challenges, limitations, and how to design and implement ePrivacy features effectively. So my name is Abdelmalek Najih. I'm the CEO and founder at Advice, and I am next to Christophe, Vincent, Michael, and Miriam. So if you could please introduce yourself, starting by the alphabetical order. So Vincent.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Vincent Olatunji. I'm the National Commissioner, CEO, Nigeria Data Protection Commission. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Christophe Mazzola, cybersecurity expert, principally delivering CISO services.
Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael Redmond. I'm the Deputy Chief Information Security Officer for Louisville, Kentucky. There, I'm also responsible for privacy compliance, including with PCI and HIPAA. I'm also a PECB instructor, and I am an ISO auditor also.
And good afternoon. I'm Miriama Podskubová. I'm from Slovakia. I am a qualified lawyer and attorney, and my focus used to be on M&A, but now I'm focusing on more digital stuff, which is also part of which is also cybersecurity, cyber resilience, and anything which is connected to digital, as well as ePrivacy filters. So.
Thank you. So we'll start with Vincent, as always, who should leave us in a few minutes because of a situation. So can you please talk about, tell us more about the situation in Nigeria, about ePrivacy features, about privacy in general?
Thank you very much. It's obvious that we're all exposed to data processing, and more importantly, we are vulnerable when it comes to digital processing and e-privacy. Because the fact is that when you go online to make a purchase, before you know it, they start bombarding you with different kinds of adverts, which you do not even know already. And this has to do with a lot of issues around data privacy. For instance, the area of principles of data privacy, the lawful basis, the fairness, the transparency. How transparent are these vendors? How transparent are the solution providers? How transparent are the platform which we are using to buy one thing or the other, or to interact with ourselves? During the course of interaction, they use cookies, they use solving, web solving, and so many other solutions to harvest our data with or without our consent, which is really important. Before your data should be processed, your consent, which should be freely given in an affirmative way, should be requested from you. But in most cases, the moment you hit that button and you buy one thing or you interact, you start seeing these adverts. Now, how do you address this situation? E-filters, can they really address this situation? I think it should be looked at from the perspective of country on country basis. For instance, in a lot of countries in the developing world, most of these will go online, don't even understand what you are talking about when you talk of cooking or harvesting your data or profiling. So as much as possible, solution providers, network providers must be able to be transparent enough and give you the option of either you opt in or you opt out. It should be as simple and as seamless as when you are opting in for such product or service. Another thing is the issue of the regulation itself. How do you ensure proper regulation and implementation of whatever regulation you have in place? I'll give examples in some countries. When it comes to e-privacy, the power to actually regulate may be with the telco regulator. For instance, in Nigeria, NCC may come into say, okay, they want to regulate because the network they are using are being controlled by this telecom regulator, whereas DPA is there. They are dealing anything about personal data processing. DPA should be in charge of that. But I think the most important thing is our own behavior as data subjects. Before you actually buy anything, before you click, you need to read these privacy statements, privacy policies, where you will be guaranteed that there is trust that your data with data controllers, your data with solution providers, your data with network protectors are adequately protected. And that data must not be used for any other purpose, apart from that which you have consented to. But how many of us read? That is the issue. And we need to really ensure that data controllers, network providers, solution providers are transparent enough in a way that easily you would know that, yes, where you purchase from here, they will definitely use of information for that thing. Even, do you know when, even when you are not using your phone, you are always talking to your phone. your data is being gathered. You may be talking that you want to get something. Before you know it, you start seeing advert of such things that you already said you wanted to buy, and you have not actually purchased anything. So these are all issues around data privacy and e-privacy. Now, we need to really work with solution providers, network operators, in terms of data privacy by design and by default. So at the point of designing your solution, at the time of marketing or even the purchase, the aspect of privacy by default by design should be incorporated. So anything they want to build your data, you must be aware, you should know, and you need to put in place measures to filter the kind of advert you want to see and to ensure that that is really taken care of, because it's your right. But when it comes to profiling, you don't want to be profiled. But are we really being profiled or not? The truth is, they are profiling us every minute. The more we go online, our devices, they give us out. Anywhere we get to as we are here, our location, the longitude, the latitude are online. People know that we are here. And there may be some marketing structures around that they want to use to market to us. That, oh, you are in social place, you can get this, you can get that. These are all issues around privacy. And even the EU directive, which is about coming up, I don't know how much that can actually address this issue. Than for all of us to know that we have roles to play. Data subjects, you have a role to play. Data controller, you have a role to play. The regulator, you have a role to play. For all of us to work together and ensure that we effectively ensure that these privacy laws across the globe are effectively implemented. And this, I think, this is the only way that we can really surmount it. It's something that will keep going as we advance in technologies. All this will still be coming up. But with all of us working together and agree on the best way forward, we'll be able to provide solutions to these challenges. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Vincent, for your input. Now, next question for you, Miriam. Can you please tell us more about e-privacy features and how important they are?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think that Vincent already touched part of it, that e-privacy filters are very necessary, and they're coming to be more and more inevitable question of everyone's life. Either you are a businessman, either you are a consumer, you are thinking and using some filters. You are using them as a consumer, thinking about your privacy, and you are trying to stay protective. If you are a businessman, you are trying, or at least thinking about your product, you want to sell it in the market, so you are willing to use targeting the client and everything, but on the other side are these clients who don't want to be overwhelmed by your advertisement and so on and so on. Again, as you are a businessman, you are subject of many regulations, and here are lawyers to help you to understand that there is tons of regulation when it comes to European Union. It is either GDPR, it is a privacy directive, and upcoming e-privacy regulation, which is necessary because European Union is a big market, and it becomes to be regulated thanks to European Union legislative framework, we can say. And it is huge because it doesn't comprise only GDPR, it comprises also Digital Service Act, Digital Market Act, and a lot of other relevant regulation which needs to be addressed when we are speaking about privacy and privacy issues concerns. So when it comes to e-privacy filters, we can be speaking about cookies, for example. We can be speaking about some malware also, or any other software which can protect you not only on privacy level, but also on other levels. As for example, malware is not related to privacy only. It is also protecting you for not getting your PC hacked or not working anymore, for example, like this. So providing just the general framework for the privacy filters, that would be it probably.
Thank you, Miriam. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, I think it's important because what's happening in the privacy filters is, in the states at least, different states have different privacy regulations. Now, if you are a company that deals with all of the states, you have to meet each state's privacy regulations. If you also have European clients, you have to meet GDPR. So you're meeting, and if you also happen to have a pharmaceutical firm, you're now meeting HIPAA. If you take credit cards for any of your products, you're now meeting PCI. And it's very difficult for a small company to produce the product, never mind having to worry about what privacy is, what's this, what's that. So that lends itself to errors. And these are international companies, so they have to meet international laws. And that's the same as if you're in Europe, if you're in China, if you're in India. You have to meet all the international laws of your sharing. And it's very difficult. I'm going to give a plug for PECB. As a trainer, I highly recommend the ISO. I'm doing the number off the top. I usually I add or miss a 0 whenever I'm doing an ISO, so if I make it wrong, just correct it. It's ISO 27701. It goes with ISO 27701. They do it as a master. So what happened was the ISO 2701 was great for information, but it didn't cover the digital protection necessarily for privacy. So they came out with the ISO 27701. And if you look at the old PECB Insights, I have an article under it with the original number when it was still in draft, but the article's still good. It's just that you'll have to look under the original number. So what's happened is the definition of privacy keeps changing. What do we need to include in privacy? Now, photographs are certainly privacy. There was a nurse recently in the United States that was fired because she took a photograph with a patient and said, I'm so glad she made it through her chemo. Privacy information. She posted it on Facebook. And this woman had become a friend, etc. Because she was also a patient, she was fired. It is in her permanent record that she disclosed privacy information. And it's about being aware. And so there's a lot of awareness training on cybersecurity, quite a lot. Not a lot of awareness training on privacy. And it's not just, it's paper records. There could be a case where somebody is printing something out and they don't have privileged access to the file, but the manager's saying, can you just print this out for me? If they don't have privileged access to access the file, they don't have privileged access to read the file. And yet they're leaving it on a printer where somebody else comes by and picks it up. Now you say, that doesn't affect me. If you're sending it to someone and they happen to not have their email open, they're not closing their computer, your information is now being exposed to other employees, other workers, other companies where you don't know where it's been exposed to. So how do you keep those controls in place? So these are big issues that are coming, and part of that is privacy policies, privacy procedures that are well written, encompassing all of the standards that you have to comply with, all of them. I do a simple old-fashioned way. I take an Excel spreadsheet. I put all of the governance compliance that we have to meet for privacy. I map the commonalities between them, do the commonalities once, take all the outliers, work on those separately, and now I've complied with 10 regulations, as opposed to taking each one individually. And I keep that compliance worksheet for myself, not for auditors, because I have to see when something's changed. And some of the information we have in the United States that you don't think is privacy, for the city, I have to review everything. The HIPAA, the healthcare, there were problems during HIPAA. HIPAA is our healthcare, and it said that you could share COVID information for research purposes. But in the small print, it says under HIPAA, with the signature approval of the patient. People forgot that. Then it said you could share for research purposes. There was a company that wanted to take the data of a particular city. I also do consulting of another city. But that data happened to have, they wanted to send it out for research purposes, for marketing research. If they sent it out in this color paper versus this color paper, which one got quicker response, reminding them to come back in? That's not allowed. So what's happened is the interpretation of the law, of the letter, if you will, the interpretation of the standards is not being taught. People are getting a piece of paper and reading it, saying, I think it means this, and implementing it around the world. Until last semester, I co-taught the Masters in Cybersecurity Law for St. Thomas as an adjunct professor. And we included privacy. And they said, we hired you all to teach the cybersecurity aspects of the law. Why are we including privacy? Because it is digital protection of data is considered under cybersecurity. That is privacy. So what you may think is a small group under your policies, when you go back, please review your policies. Please make sure that the policies that your senior management is signing, saying, yes, this is what we must do, is specific. Make sure you have procedures in place that say exactly how to do this. Have those procedures checked by your chief data officer, your cybersecurity officer, the information officer, your mother and father, whoever it might be.
I guess.
But have it checked,
Yeah.
because what's happening in most organizations, one person does it, one person puts it out, they've misinterpreted, they're not a lawyer, they're not an expert, they haven't shown up with a PECB class, they don't have the background, and they're making these rules, and that's a big problem.
Thank you very much. So you covered many points of our agenda, challenges, and how to design and implement ePrivacy features. Now going back to our first question, I would ask Christophe, what data are concerned with ePrivacy, and why they are important?
Indeed, my colleague did give a great insight about ePrivacy, but why we need ePrivacy filters? Because data are very important for company. This is like the new oil or the new gold or modern currency at that time, and they are driving the decision making. They improve customer experience. There is company doing behavioral analytics on the customer experience on their application. They seek data to understand exactly how we operate, why we buy things, why we click on the link. And basically, this is pure data analytics, and they make profile on us. From a company perspective, that's great. From an end user experience, that's not really great, and we can all agree on that. And we always say that cybersecurity is everybody's business, and we can accept that, but privacy is also everybody's business. Because if we look, and I think if I look at the crowd right now, we can all remember how was the life 20 or 30 years ago. Having a proper experience online was quite okay, especially managing personal data. And we have that acceptable level of risk that we try to achieve on a daily basis while doing our job. Because right now, people become so dependent on the digital, on our smartphone. We have application for banking, for social network, for email, for whatsoever. We have the possibility to do everything from our pocket. But we make a trade-off by, okay, we have the possibility to do everything we want, but as a counterpart, we give all the information that we perhaps don't want. And people are not aware of that, and this is what we try to achieve. And this is exactly what you mentioned about awareness. But how we do protect yourself, and how we protect ourselves from the digital world on the real world, because there is a clear impact on how we profile us. From my perspective, even we put ePrivacy filters or whatsoever, there is no really concrete solution. I like that analogy about the seatbelt in car. When we want to drive and we want to be secure, we attach the seatbelt. It's easy, efficient, and voila, we are secure, if you respect the speed limit, of course. At that moment, in cybersecurity, I don't think about a solution that is as convenient as the seatbelt, especially to protect our data. From companies that want to spy us or make a profile on us, we always need to have that trade-off between the ease of use, the freedom, the security, the privacy, and whatsoever. So we really need to protect data, and this is what we'll try to answer with the ePrivacy filter today.
Okay, thank you. So always with Christophe, one more question. How are major tech platforms adapting their business models in response to European privacy regulations?
And that's perfect topic for today, because 2 days ago, Meta for Facebook and Instagram decided to launch a business model, especially a subscription model for their user, where they might pay some kind of membership to not have publicity or advertising or whatsoever, and to not be tracked while using their platform, like YouTube did a few years ago, like Twitter, X, did for a few months ago. And the problem is that, okay, we can have a subscription model based on no advertising as a trade-off, but they decide to increase the tracking for the free user in response to the GDPR regulation, and especially the last development on GDPR and the EU directive. So yeah, in some point, for people who are willing to pay and have the possibility to pay, they will gain more privacy. But in this meantime, when people want to just not accept to be into a subscription model, the tracking will be worse. So there is no good that coming from the internet giant at that moment.
Okay, also on your side, Michael, so how are major tech platforms adapting their business model in response to your privacy regulations in US?
Major tech?
Yeah.
Yeah. The technology has become interesting because what's happened is, especially with the introduction of AI and ChatGPT in all of our products, many organizations are putting out no ChatGPT allowed for information that the organization has, because until recently, ChatGPT did not say that they would not share information. ChatGPT, New York, one of the newspapers, the New York Times, just put out a disclaimer with their lawyer stating that ChatGPT or any other AI may not use their information that contains any personal information that they put in an article. They still put it in the article, but it's their information. So what's happened is they've had problems with people taking personal identification, personal information that includes somebody's PII information, and that might include their marital status, it might include their age, it might include their identification numbers, it might include whatever it is, and everybody has different parameters on what they consider privacy, and that's another thing, what's your definition of privacy? And so what's happened is people are uploading these in organizations, and the technology is already in the place. They have defense in place, they've got all of this different technologies in place, they've got paying fortunes on all of these tools to make sure that nobody can come in and get your personal data and sell it, et cetera, and they don't have to, because your own personnel are uploading it into ChatGPT with personal licenses. Now, they have a private license that they've paid for, and they can click and say, this may not be kept by ChatGPT, so that it may not be used for learning purposes, then it's supposedly expunged. However, if you don't have the paid and you're using the free version, which the majority of the world is, they have the right to keep that information. You didn't pay not to, therefore it's, you know, thank you very much for sharing it. And people are sharing information about HR, there's people's payrolls, people this, please show me how I can make this format better, what can I do with this, what can I do with that, and they're uploading all of your PII information, and it could be any organization, and because they don't have a ChatGPT policy, and people are saying that I'm not sharing it with anyone, I'm only sharing it with ChatGPT, it's only an app. Who's it going to tell? And so what's happened is you have to have, again, the technologies in place are becoming stronger to observe for that. We have softwares that say if there's anybody's social security number, if it's going out in an email, it's automatically stopped. It can't leave the organization. But again, if an employee is uploading all that information into ChatGPT, we're wasting our money. So I love ChatGPT on my personal. I do not include any personal details at all. You know, I may say, what's a poem about a bird? You know, but I'm not going to put anything up there on that's personal. However, you know, putting those policies in place together on things that you don't want shared, and think about how your employees could be sharing it in situations like this without meaning to. About, do you have things in place with all the technology in the world? If you don't have something that say, you know, when you're taking a birthday party picture in the office, make sure that there's no PII, personal identifying information behind you on a chart somewhere, or you have papers around you that somebody can make larger and read. And it's so, you know, there's softwares now that will see if you have anything coming out, if you have any information, they're checking to see if there's any of your PII information that happens to be on the dark web, getting a notice on that. There's a lot of great softwares out, a lot of great technology to combat and to work with this, but if human nature gets in the way, if awareness training is not in place, all the technology in the world, and you could have an AI that's saying, this is going out, somebody's releasing this. You can have great tools in place. I love AI. I love digital transformation. You know, I think ML, machine learning, and AI are, you know, the way of the future. But I also think that with that becomes the humans have to have a certain amount of responsibility. How are we using it? How are we living in it? Where is it allowed to share with? Once it finishes learning, is it going to be allowed to share with other apps? When you're using your vendors' apps that include AI, are their AI learning with your information, or is it simply processing it? Is it reading it and using it and storing it? Or is it just processing it through? Because you have a software that is an AI that in their software that's saying, this has PII information, stop it. Is it reading it to know it? Of course. It's recognizing it. But is it keeping it? Have you checked with your vendors to see what happens once they do that? Most people haven't spoken to their vendors' engineers. It's a wonderful software. Every company's using it. Sure, every company just spread their PII all over. As my mother used to say, if somebody jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge too? You know, just because everyone's doing it doesn't make it right. So I think that with all the tools in place, and there's great tools, and I highly recommend if you're not monitoring outgoing email for PI information that's going out in error, if you're not checking information that's being shared on the dark web, if you don't have these for digital sources in place to be able to identify personal information, that your policies, again, it comes back to governance, risk, and compliance. If your policies are not strong about what humans cannot do, humans don't do it on purpose. Nobody wants to be the bad child in a family, yet every parent who's raised a child has ever been a child. No, there's always that bad child in the family. They don't mean to get in trouble all the time, but nobody told them no until after they did it. So they didn't know not to do it. So it's the same with adults. So I think that's key.
Thank you. So, Miriam, according to you, what are the solutions from an end user's perspective to enhance their privacy while browsing internet?
Yeah, as well, I was going to answer to your question because I expecting that you are going to ask, but Michaela said a lot of things which also are concerned within the regulation, so I would jump a little bit into it as well, because that's the thing that nobody realize how many filters you are using in your private life, your daily life actually, even in work. If you are working with someone across borders within other countries, you are using translators and other devices, and all these devices are using your data you are feeding them with, which means that once you are feeding something with your data, it can use it or it can process it, and then there can be some consequences when it comes to legal consequences and sanctions if you are not in compliance with proper setup. So the awareness is a big issue, I would say, and the thing how to deal with this is trainings. Trainings which need to be included within any business and any company, and it doesn't matter whether it is HR, IT, or just the cleaning lady, because once you are not having policy which are in compliance with not only GDPR, ePrivacy, or other digital legal consequences regulations, the leakage will appear somewhere, somehow, and it can be even in a material world. For example, you are sitting in an airport, you are waiting for a train somewhere, and somebody is really curious about your screen, so you are going to get your data sharing with someone else who is not maybe that aware of what you are doing, but there can be a spy, and I'm not saying that everyone is a spy now and wants really get to know into your agenda, but it can be. Mm-hmm. And there was a funny story when I was a student, and it was one man who was kind of a spy, and he told us a story about how they were trained not to leave your baggage nowhere in a train. You never know who is looking at you, who is really want to get your device, because it doesn't need to be your device, which is important, but it can be the breakage to the rest of your company, and you can get through this device, even though it is just a student device, it can be leaked, and you can get to much more important information. So it was funny for me that back then, but then I grew up, and I realized that there is a lot of this serious regulation these days, which are dealing with the same, and it is like awareness of how the data needs to be secured. Back to your question.
Okay, thank you.
Can you repeat it, please?
Yes, sure. So what are the solutions from an end users?
Yes. The solution for the end users would be also thinking not only about that I need to be aware of my data, but also when I'm now try to Google for a lot of filters and so on, to think about them in a way that if I'm going to now use all these filters, I'm also going to have problems with my user experience because it affects another things, for example, the downloading time of your web page and so on and so on. So just think about whatever you are doing and how you are doing it, I would say.
Okay, Christophe?
Indeed, we need to have a trade-off between the privacy and the ease to use, especially when we browse on internet and we have the cookie that perhaps make it a bit slower. So from end user perspective, when we browse on internet, we have indeed all the cookie that is managing everything. I will say that first of all the read the policy. That's the first thing, because not only compliance team have to read the policy that are published on internet, and it's remind me a story that I read years ago. There is a company that put on their term of use that if you read that policy, contact us and they will send you $1,000 check. It took 2 months to have someone contacting them. 2 months, and it was a very big download software. I don't remember the name, but I'll let you do your research, not on Google, obviously, but perhaps on other browser like DuckDuckGo or Quant. But yeah, it took 2 months for people reading the full policy. So my first advice is to read the policy to know exactly how your data are processed and where they are processed, obviously. But basically, decline all the cookie, and we can talk about that a lot because a lot of websites are not compliant now, especially in the EU. You need to have a clear no button on the website to say no, I don't want your cookie, even though a lot of websites continue to hide the no button somewhere to ensure that your data are collected, and especially with the legitimate interest part, which is just a fancy word to say that we will collect and sell your data. We have all the tools and expansion add-in that we can add on your browsers. Effectively, use the incognito modes on the browsers, and they also add very nice features that is not really public. They don't want to make the publicity on that to inform you on that, but you have the first to add the do not track features on every browser like Mozilla, Google Chrome, and so on. And by ticking the box, they will automatically decline all the cookies. So that this is at least the first step when it's time to browsing on internet.
Thank you, Christophe. Michael?
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure.
I was so engrossed in the answers.
So what are the solutions from an end user's perspective to enhance their privacy while browsing the internet?
Okay. So be careful. The end user has got to be careful, be knowledgeable. That means from a 6-year-old child up. I noticed that the library in our area is teaching cybersecurity and privacy information to 6-year-olds now. They're doing a little lecture on Friday nights, and the parents can bring their children. It used to be story reading hour. It is still story reading hour, but it's about the little boy who's leaked his information and something happened. It's still a story reading hour. But it's interesting that the need for this today, and it was done in a cute little story, and the children are learning, but it's a great way to teach while they're little, because this is when they're going to be starting to use these computers, when they're out on their cells using these things. I know by 5, my daughter was very much into computers, and using them, not just being at them, and so it becomes a very thing. And also, I think that we can help the users by sending out more awareness training. I think that we need to have not only a data policy, but a data sharing policy that is shared with every employee, so they understand what information should not be shared. Because then you just say PII, what does that mean? PCI information, what does that mean? HIPAA information, what does that mean? They don't know. So being very elaborate, very detailed on the information with them, and users have got to be careful, they have to be protective, they have to know their rights, and they also have to know the risk. And it's not an easy task, and I don't know about any of you, but if anybody else in their family, or where did I put my keys, where did I put my phone, where did I do this? That's fine when I'm in the house. Where did I leave my phone when I'm not in the house? That's a scary thing. Did I leave it at my desk? Did I leave it at somebody else's desk? That's why today we have these little things you can put on your fingers and carry your phone so you don't accidentally leave it somewhere. And I don't use them, but because they're very cumbersome, I tried. But I felt like I had this huge ring. But it's so you have to be extra careful. So these are things, and I think also not just ourselves, but teaching, it's the employees that are coming in that are the delivery person who has information, the person who's putting the files that they're sending you from your doctors into your folders, the physical documents that are being mailed, and then sending them through regular mail, your personal information. All they have to do is lose the mail. And please don't think an attacker doesn't know what time your mail comes and who it's going to. And dumpster diving is not dead. People are throwing documents out without scanning them, and their dumpster diving is still happening around the world. So it's not just digital, and I'm in cybersecurity. You know, I mean, I know all the tools, I use all the tools, I've, very much into understanding pen testing and understanding, all the awareness, and it's one of the gaps that we see in, we have the ISO on 2701, we have the ISO 27701, but we do not have one on how do you handle the paper documents? How do you do protection for here? So I think that it's up to each of us to be careful, stop every time we do something, take that moment to not click on something, take that moment to say, no, you're not going to have, I'm not going to let you collect all this data. No, only necessary data, and read. Don't assume that their necessary data is what you've seen on other sites. It may be necessary for them. So read that it depends on what country you're going, especially if you're doing online shopping. And I'm a big online shopper. It is easier for me to do online shopping, and I have to be very careful. Am I going to the right site? Am I not going to the right site? Making sure I have tools on my computers. I have that tells me, no, you made a mistake, you went to the wrong site. Most people don't even know such a thing exists around the world. So I think this is part of the process.
Thank you very much, Michael. So moving now to the challenges and limitations of ePrivacy filters. Miriam?
Yeah, maybe just continue with also the previous one.
Okay,
and
sure.
Because I think that the way how we are going to use these filters can on one side also help us, because we can filter the ads and can be shopping only what we want. But on the other side, it has to be mentioned that some of the filters, they are using technology, which I'm not that aware of because I'm not a technician, I'm just a lawyer, but these tech devices are not perfect. So even though I would put there any filter, this filter can be negative or positive, but it can be wrong. And I cannot get the right discounts, what I'm looking for my shop, just because the device is not working properly. And this is not happening only in the filters, it's happening with AI and all these days. And it's all around us, I would say. So when we are using these filters, we need to be aware that if we are going to overuse these filters, one of the effects might be that we are going to lose some content we would need at the end because of these filters. So whatever you use, you should be still aware if the usage of the filter is properly used within your device, because otherwise you can be losing some of the content you need. That's maybe one of the challenges.
Absolutely.
I would say.
Limitations?
And limitations also, as it is a device, digital device, it has to be still developing as everything else is developing. So we need to be thinking about how everything else is developing, and this is the limitation. If we are not download the proper update for our filter, the filter is going to be obsolete and not working anymore with our devices, I would say. And again, we need to be up to date with legislation, because these filters can somehow break the future regulation. It can breach also some law when it comes to patents and other privacy laws. So we need still reviewing what we are having, what we are using, and be up to date, especially with legislation, I would say.
Thank you. So Christophe, always on the limitations part, how effective are current data consent mechanisms in uploading GDPR principles, and what has been the impact of non-compliance?
Not really great, I would say, because we celebrate the 5 years of GDPR this year, and we still find a lot of non-compliance. Still, companies continue to just walk on the right of the user, of end users, and not only about the user privacy. Even public administration have a big GDPR compliance issue, and they strictly don't care about it. So, from my perspective, I don't think that GDPR is definitely a good thing, but the mechanism and how it's implemented at that moment are not enough to ensure the privacy. Indeed, users now are more aware of that, and they are more conscious about what is their profiling on internet by those advertising and so on. But still, GDPR, I think, don't do enough, especially since it's 5 years now, and we still face a lot of non-compliance issues related to GDPR. But in the same time, I would like to be the devil advocate about privacy and tracking and so on. I'm a CISO of a SaaS company who use analytics behavioral to improve customer experience, to understand how their user use the application. Indeed, it's performed with the clear consent of the tracking, but we need to understand that for online platform, the advertising is mostly generated by the revenue is mostly generated by the advertising. So that means if we use privacy filter, if we use that ads block and so on, that means it's a loss of revenue. So perhaps a loss of content, a loss of content as well. So perhaps we need to find a balance between the ad blocking, the user experience, as you mentioned, but also the revenue generation that's coming from the advertising and the profile tracking that those websites perform. And indeed, we need to increase what GDPR is doing with all the mechanism that is already in place, and I think we can move further on that topic. But in the same time, we need to balance about the revenue function of that profiling.
Thank you, Christophe. So the last part, how to design and implement ePrivacy features effectively. What are the do's and don'ts? Let's start with Miriam.
As I already said, we should be using only maybe reputable filters, not something which was made just in garage, as it was already mentioned in some previous lectures. We should be using only the filters which are somehow well known, using also the updates, because otherwise we cannot adjust to like development, which is still moving somewhere else. We also be thinking about our privacy, not being shared our private data, because once we decided to use it, we need to be aware that it's going to be used by someone or somehow. So we need to think what we are doing, and I think this is the best advice all the time. You should be thinking about what you are doing, what are you using, and how.
Thank you, Miriam. Michael, so we're having the special context that you have some providers in USA who are dealing with Europe. So how do you see the design and implementation of ePrivacy features? How can...
Yeah, it's becoming a key thing there because there's so many different states, and they've had to take the consensus for all of them. And what's interesting is, every job that you apply to is still saying marriage status is supposed to be considered privacy information, but every job you apply to say, are you single, widow, divorced? Well, that usually only applies to it doesn't say widower, it says widow, and so some of this has to change to begin with. But I got so tired of them asking that one day, I just wrote looking. I said that's it. Let them say what they want, because it's none of their business. Doesn't mean I'm not married and looking. Just said looking, and they said, what does that mean? I said that means I'm not going to answer that question. It has nothing to do with it, because that information was going to be uploaded into a software by a vendor, and they were going to be using it to analyze which jobs they want, who gets what jobs and such, and how do I know that data is not being used? And looking wasn't a category, so therefore the computer just overrided it. It was fine, it just went through. So I didn't expect a human to see it, but I expected the computer to see it. But what's happening is people are so fast to get to market. I don't know if any of you ever heard of Microsoft. They're very fast to getting market, and they're famous for coming out with patches. So what's happening is a lot of these organizations are skipping the privacy. protections that they have to put in place themselves. And they're letting information slide, they're letting information go, they're purposely leaving it out of their tools because it will take them longer to get to market. And so what's happening is it is up to us, the consumer of those products, especially corporate products, never mind personal products as well. How was this developed? You know, think back, how many times did your organization purchase a software and not ask to speak to the engineering department for that software? And I can assure you, when we've spoken to the engineers, we said, this is what your salespeople told us, this is what's happening, this is what your marketing pages says, this is what your literature says. And the engineer actually said in one interview, that's not true, we don't do that. I said, oh. He said, they must have misinterpreted it, they never would have put it in their marketing. I said, they must have misinterpreted it. So what happened was somebody was quick, fast, they asked somebody, they misunderstood the answer, possibly, most likely. You know, it had gone through their legal, it had gone through everything, but they misunderstood the answer because they hadn't asked the question properly. So you can be speaking to your vendors, you can be asking your vendors, especially what we have in the US, because they are skipping GDPR in some cases, even though we have international firms that must comply with GDPR. When GDPR came out, the first one, I was in the very first GDPR class that PECB gave because I said, I need to know this for the US. You know, we don't live in a vacuum. And so it shouldn't be any different, but it is, because the privacy is being overlooked more. We don't have government controls of it. We have state controls over it. So if you're in a state that's not controlled, you say, well, yes, that if you're caught and it happens to be a resident of that state that complains, yes, then you'll get in trouble. But it's not a federal requirement, so it is up to the users, also up to the federal government to come up with a U.S. standard, hint, hint, if you're listening. But, you know, this is part of the problem, but it has got to be the users. It's got to be, do not trust any software. Software is put together by developers who had best interest at place, not necessarily the best developer. Not necessarily one that had privacy information. Not necessarily one that didn't leave a back door into the application that's supposed to be checking your privacy, checking what's going on, being your filter, and perhaps it's been taken over by a hacker and you're not even aware of it. So this is the information, and we have to, as senior people in organizations, we must validate that, yes, and do due diligence on every single software we bring in, regardless of how time-consuming it is, before we accept it. We also have to, again, trust but verify, and eventually we have to use the tools because we're not back in the time of our grandparents with typewriters. And even then they had to worry about carbon paper being destroyed properly, and you could go back and reread the ribbon. So it's not that this is new, it's just that it's automated, it's faster, and it's quicker. But your grandparents had to worry about ribbons because we would go back and read the ribbon on their typewriter. So it's changed, but the technology has got to have regulations. We don't have regulations for the products on privacy, only the organizations, only the individuals. The software products themselves have no regulations that they must comply with, unless we ask if they have a ISO 2701 certification with an emphasis on the 27701 in addition to. I told you I'm always adding that extra O. I like the extra O, it sounds better. So that's part of the problem. So I hope that helps with some of the issues.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So always in the design part, based on GDPR, what are your arsenal to fight on equal terms against internet giants? Christophe?
Before to dig into that question, I would like to add just one thing about the do and don't. Again, rely on the policy. Stop writing them for your user in legal terms. There is a lot of way to share policy in the simple word, like explaining your data processing, like you would like to explain to a 5-year-old, and you will fill up the same requirement that you do with GDPR or whatsoever regulation you need to fulfill. But in the same times, people will be aware of exactly what your data, where their data are going, because ultimately it's just BS, nonsense, legal that are published on internet where nobody understands a single word of it. Go back on GDPR. There is, even if I'm a bit I give some critics on GDPR. We have some right. The first one and the biggest one is the right to erasure. Basically, you can write on Facebook, Google, or whatsoever and say, okay, I know you have my data, so I want to be sure that you delete my data because I just don't want you to have my data and process my data, send the letters. And a couple of weeks ago or a couple of months ago, you will receive a nice letter from Facebook or Google or any website you will contact, and they will delete your data. The second is about the consent requirement. We mentioned that a bit earlier. You need to have a clear consent. Ultimately, it's not performed correctly yet. A few months ago, I think, the Belgian DPA gave a fine on the group of news websites that collect data for years without a clear consent of the user, and they just receive a fine of 50,000 euros. Which means this is a right to be wrong, because 15,000 euros is a peanuts for website news, and we talk about national website news, so that means they have a budget for the fine, and it's simply, okay, you collect data for 3, 4, 5 years without a clear consent, you gain a lot of money about it, but we just pay for the party after the day. And ultimately, the transparency. If you're not sure about how your data is processed, contact the website, contact the company you work with, contact the controller that process your data, and ask a clear understanding on how your data is processed. And if you're not happy about the answer, you still can use the right to erasure for that.
Thank you very much. So now to the audience, if you have any questions, comments, please. Yes?
In the US, as far as I remember, you have a lot of privacy acts, you have such a lot of privacy acts. As far as I remember, you have one for students, one for childhood, and do you suggest to do the same in Europe? I mean, if you are thinking in having ePrivacy filters for sector-based or sector-focused initiatives or something like that?
I can take the question.
Go ahead.
I think that no one would like to have more regulation in Europe, because even these days the regulation as it is, it's kind of painful, I would say. And as Christophe already said, if there would be an audience full of lawyers, I would totally advise them to make it as simple as it's possible and to always be thinking who is the audience, because I think that it is not the best practice to have as many regulation as is possible, but to know how to interpret it, how to construe the ratio behind it, and basically to use it in the best interest of everybody. And if it is regulated in one place, we can use it easily. But if it is disturbed in so many partial legislation, then it's going to be a problem for everyone to find it, read it, and then make it in cooperation with the others. Because I can see it, for example, in the German legislation, you have one big ABGB, it's in English, and it is the one code which covers everything, and it is very similar for rest of the Europe. I would say that when it comes to some basics, it is one general regulation which covers the all. It has some reason why it should be focused on specific issues, but unless the issue is so specific and needs actual regulation as itself, it shouldn't be, in my opinion.
Okay. I think your question also mentioned policies, and I don't see anything wrong with having additional policies. Like a grammar school wants to have policies saying that if if someone suspected a child of having child abuse at home, which happens a lot around the world, and but that it's not done, and they might be keeping statistics on that. And then I would have in the policy that information just to be kept confidential. the protection of the child, even if it's done, and then also that I think that, yes, it's fine, especially in high school where children are suspended for doing something silly. You know, the high school could say that we have a privacy on this issue. We consider this private information, and although it's not protected such by the normal PII, we consider it privacy information, and our school is going to add this in, that any suspensions will not be shared with newspapers and such, because I see that a lot, where a child's been suspended and it's in school. Here's a 14-year-old. Their reputation's been destroyed. What's their incentive to study to go to college? What's their incentive to study to go on? In a small town, their reputation's been destroyed. People saying, we don't want you playing with them, they're dangerous, da-da-da. They've ruined a child's life. It's worse than a child putting it on social media. Adults are putting it on in the newspaper.
And you have different requirements if you are a different population. I mean, it's different from, as you were saying, for children, that it's different from, I don't know, the healthcare sector, or maybe, I don't know, the people with which with this movement, the Me Too movement in Europe and US, I think they do have a lot of different requirements. That's what I was asking.
Yes, yes, I agree with you. There's a lot of people requirements, and I think that a caring and sensitivity and going back to human nature has got to be part of what we consider in our policies. We're people first, we're statisticians second, and then we're cybersecurity. I mean, I think that we have to put our places in order.
Dennis?
I've got a very quick question. My name is Dennis. I think I'm going to raise the question to Miriam and Christophe. This practically speaks to any job logs like myself. No complications. Is my phone or the smart TV on my wall spying on me? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted. So if it's spying on me, that regardless of whether I'm actually speaking on the phone or be able to open a browser on my smart TV, how can I use e-filters to protect myself?
That's a good question. The use of the system like smartphone or smart TV imply the fact that you give a certain right or privilege to the tools that you use. For instance, if you use your phone and the Hey Alexa or Hey Siri, the phone will always listen to you to ensure that when you say that word, they will effectively record and act on your behalf. And this is the same for your TV, the same for electronic device that need to do that. My piece of advice should be to not use that tools. And I will give you just a small experience that happened to me not so long ago. I've been contacted by the foreign entities, spy foreign entities. I didn't know it was spy, obviously, on social network. I exchanged few words and don't continue that discussion. And a couple of months later, I've been contacted by the for French secret services to have a meeting to the embassy. I say, oh, nice. They come to. I came. They took my passport. They took my smartphone, and I enter in the room where two persons in front of me stand. It was two secret service agents. They come with very old smartphone, Nokia 3310, and block note paper. And basically, they say, if you don't want to be spied by the smartphone, don't use one. This is the only advice I can give.
And I agree.
Yeah, of course.
Totally.
I all agree. Thank you, Denise. Any other question, comments? Yes, please. Yeah.
I have a feeling that people concerned about security are those who have seen the exponential growth of the technology in the last 20, 30 years. And if we look on the kids born after 2000, roughly, 2010 maybe, they have been raised with the technology in their hands where privacy is a part of the gamification. Like in Snapchat, you can see where your friends are. And it's very hard to explain to them why privacy is important. What's the point about it? So do you think it can lead to a point where GDPR will no longer be supported by next generations? Let's say we look into 30 years ahead. There will be no point in this whole thing. No one concerned. Thank you.
I think so, because the new generation, even from people who are 20 years now, who enter in the work industry, start to work and so on. They, when we try to train them about security, compliance, and privacy, they just simply don't care. And if you look at them and start to talk with them and say, "But I don't care if they have my data. I have nothing to hide." And frankly, I'm scared that perhaps in 10, 20 years, most of those people will be in the labor, will work and so on, and just simply don't care about GDPR and regulation because they already share all their life since they are a teenager. So why they will change their behavior?
Mm-hmm.
This is a big concern indeed.
Okay, so we're out of time. Thank you very much for your presence, and thank you to the panelists. Thank you very much.